Padmore is also with us. John Padmore is also with us, who is on the design team, along with Anna Fernandez, also from Mass Design. There are architectural firms, so they'll be walking you through much of what you're going to see tonight. And you all may know that Children's Services of Roxbury has been around. We're going to be celebrating 50 years in service, and we do everything from early education and care. We run a child care center right at 520 Dudley. 93 children a day come there. We have behavioral health services. We run housing for homeless families, both in a congregate setting, one of which is right on Dudley Street. And then we have scattered sites where we rent out houses for homeless families and help them find permanent housing. What a lot of people don't know is that we're in 4 cities across the Commonwealth. We employ 400 people. And with this project, we anticipate within the footprint we already exist in, we anticipate being able to grow our programming by 25%, which would include providing services to about 1,500 additional children and their families. And it will also allow us to hire career-oriented jobs for probably about another 150 people. What's on the screen now is many of you participated in this. We had a community come through event where people right in our community could come in and weigh in on what the building will look like. Like I said, we purchased it in 2021. And we hope, with your permission, of course, to be able to renovate the building that will allow us to help us in this expansion. I just want to say that most of our staff work in the community. So when I talk about increasing the services to folks, it will not necessarily increase traffic flow because the people we serve are in the community. We're the largest Black-run organization. These are the 5 categories under which we provide the programming that I just described. And given our time, I will turn it over to Dave. I can come back in, Dave, and touch on more specifics and certainly answer questions.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. These are just a couple of teaser images that John Padmore and Sandra will talk a little bit more about later. But some interior renderings of the existing, proposed building at 520 Dudley, and Family Hub. It sounds like you might want to go on mute. So Family Hub, and this is really looking back towards the front door. But again, John Padmore from Mass Design is going to go through back to this as we like. One of the main things that we're here tonight for is about zoning. The parcels that make up 520, essentially 5 Rockford Street, Dudley Street, and Burrell Street. All of them are within the Roxbury neighborhood. Some of them are zoned as multifamily, residential, and local shopping. And the rear ones along Rockford and Burrell are actually 3-family zoning designations. So the zoning district sub-district kind of divides the site. It really acts as one parcel, but it's 5 parcels that's kind of divvied up in between 2 zoning sub-districts. The reason that we trigger zoning is that we are doing small extensions and filling of gaps, essentially. These really historically, as John will describe, are 2 buildings, 2 separate buildings, actually 3 separate buildings. But the 2 main buildings that front Dudley Street. And the orange that you see here is actually a connector between the 2 buildings, and will actually serve as the new front door. Right now, if you walk by, you can sort of see there's a gap between the 2 buildings. that's connected by a stairwell. But we're really, the main project here from a construction perspective is that we're joining these two together. That adds square footage, and so that triggers zoning. We are also adding a little bit of space in the rear to connect the annex to the playground and early education center. And you can see that in purple. So those extensions really were the reason that we triggered zoning. And the triggers for zoning, we have a floor area ratio excessive, a front yard insufficient, side yard insufficient, off-street parking insufficient, and an extension of a non-conforming use. Many of these things were already here, but because we're adding this square footage and obviously fairly small, we have triggered these zoning variances and requested them. We have received our refusal letter, we have appealed, and we're looking, hopefully with your permission, to go to the ZBA at the earliest date possible. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to John Padmore. John, you still there?
I'm here. Yeah, in the interest of time, I'm going to try to just give like a really quick overview here. So in this image is an aerial photo. You can see the two buildings. The 504 building is on the left, and the 520 building is on the right. And David mentioned the gap in between the building. I think that's sort of illustrated here. The buildings they touch in the middle, but that's just for an egress stair for 520. So the buildings are physically separated. And in a lot of cases, the quickest way to get from one building to the other, even though they hold the same agency, you have to go outside and come back inside. So that's one condition that we're trying to go past. You can go to the next one, Dave. So in general, so this is a 50-year organization, and we are participating in this to support them to continue with their mission, their very important mission, and their impact for the next 50 years. So ideally, the goal is to move from being just supporting communities to building communities, and this architectural effort hopefully will support that. You can go to the next one, Dave. So we have specific project goals, things like improving accessibility, increased daylighting. There are places in the building that currently, you can be in there and not have any idea what time of day it is. We want to try to eliminate those conditions. And honoring the history of the buildings is also very important. We can get into that in a minute. And then also very importantly, we're going to upgrade all of the building systems so that we comply with and even surpass some of the requirements that are being put out there today. So this will allow you to see, sort of give you an orientation of the building. You see the buildings in color are the buildings that we're talking about. The 504 building is on the left, and 520 is on the right. There's a playground in the back that we're going to be expanding, and there's a parking lot also that we're going to try to create a dual use that it will serve the community and not just the building. So we can go on to the next slide. So the buildings were built in the late 1800s. They used to be part of the transportation system. They were car houses and stables, and then they became trolley barns. And then after that, the transportation system changed. They took on other uses. They were retail, all kinds of different things. But what we're trying to do is, David, you could just, I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to point something out about the openings of the building. We're trying to present, we're trying to try to maintain some of the historic character of the building by this sort of openness that you see here. We're trying to preserve that. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so conceptually, you see this is a diagram that sort of illustrates that we have two buildings that are separated and disconnected, even though they're part of the same agency. We note where the existing parking lot is. You see where the playground is. We can go to the next diagram. And so what we're trying to do is, by enclosing that gap in between the buildings, we create an opportunity to connect the building at multiple floors. So now it becomes one building. And in the back, where you see that rectangle, we're going to be taking down there's a shed, a long shed back there. We're going to be taking down that shed and replacing it with a new annex. We can go to the next one. And then the other thing that we're also trying to do is to connect the building better with the community. So we're going to try as best as we can, sort of reintroduce those large openings where we can. It's not always possible, but we'll do our best to do that so that there's a connection, a more visual and physical connection between the building and the community. Okay, next slide. So we can go to this. This sort of illustrates the new building. You can see where we connected the building. There's the glass at the top there. You see the slightly taller annex now in the back, and then you can see some traces of the playground in this image. We can go to the next one. Okay, and this sort of kind of gives you as a plan view, and you can literally see now where the playground is, how it relates to Burrell, and how the event parking space relates to Rockford Street. We can keep going to the next one. And these are just the next images sort of give you these are elevations to give you a sort of, if you're standing in front of the building on Dudley Street, this is what you see. You see how we connected the buildings. So now we have a more purposeful entry. Right before, if you remember the other image we're looking at, you couldn't tell where the entry of the building is. It will be clear now. And you see how we tried to open up those openings that I mentioned before. And the image below is from Rockford Street, looking towards the building. You see that we didn't alter the masonry character of the building very much at all. We're trying to preserve it. We can go to the next one. And then this is looking for Burrell Street, where you can see where the playground is. You can also see there used to be a freight elevator that we're removing and creating more openings in the building from the on the 504 building. That's the one on your right. That's talking about the bottom image. And finally, these are like some renderings that kind of give you an idea. This is standing on Dudley Street, and you can see the new entrance, and you can see how we opened up the building some more, and we added color and some energy to sort of represent what CSR does and the kind of image that we want to project. This is from this on Dudley Street again, looking up towards Burrell. And you see all of the color and all the items we're trying to put in there. So that was really fast. I apologize, but you heard my alarm. I think you saw we went over a little bit. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So I just want to sort of open it up for folks to ask questions, clarification, share comments. And before we get going with that, so can you clarify what your ask is of DSNI?
Yes, our understanding is that prior to going to the ZBA, projects who are seeking variances come to you all to just collect feedback and hopefully receive the green light to go to the ZBA. We've been working with Keisha and Stephanie at the city. So that's
Awesome.
That's the hope. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So let's open it up for questions that people may have. Let's try to be good about seeing. Raise your hand either electronically or visually. Julia, go ahead.
I understand it's before it was a daycare on one side, and Sandra mentioned something about the homeless.
Yeah.
So what is the other building? Is the other building housing? Or what is the other building?
So both buildings, and forgive me if you already know this. I know some of you have been around a long time, and maybe I'm assuming you all know that DSNI was on the first floor of 504 Dudley Street for years.
Okay.
So that's the same building. When Youth Build acquired this building, it was a nonprofit center. So that both buildings had nonprofits in them. DSNI was one, Dare Family Services, which is now Hopewell. So both of those buildings are office space. The Child Care Center is at 520, which is the building on the right. where the playground is behind it. That's always been there. And so our homeless shelter program for homeless families is not located in that building. But I'm trying to see, that open field that you all own, just to the left of it, those brick buildings, we rent those buildings and have congregate shelter for homeless families. And the rest of our shelter programming are units that are rented throughout the city of Boston that house homeless families. And so in the buildings that we're talking about rehabbing, there is no housing at all.
So in other words, what are the two buildings for? You rent it?
We purchased it in 2021. And we acquired both buildings, and we're going to make them one building for office space. We're
Just
working
office space?
office space. Kids will still come there for the child care center program. People will be in and out, of course, because we have foster care and adoption and any number of services. We have a behavioral health clinic. So there is traffic. People come to our building right now, and we're making it a better, more family-friendly space for the clients that do come see us during the day.
Thank you, Sandra. Can you elaborate? So what specific programs will be run out of there?
They mentioned 4, so.
I can, if you go back to, so they are the same programs that we operate right now as we speak. We run, our housing staff are in this building, but when they see clients come in, but they may be coming in to, sign paperwork for their new lease, et cetera. We do family stabilization, which is where we help families who are in crisis, and we work with them so that their children don't get taken from their home. We have our child care center, like I mentioned. We have mental health care. We have 140 staff that work out of this building, but most of them are in the field all day. They'll come in one day a week to do their paperwork, et cetera. But their work is in the field. They're in schools, they go to people's homes, et cetera. And we have a youth development program called YPP that has operated out of this building for 30 years. So we're not adding things that are not currently happening in this building.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody else have a question for Sandra and her team?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any hands. Well, I certainly want to comment. It's great that you're sort of taking on this task. I mean, I really like the openness of the new windows. I think that in our community sometimes that door is not enough. People need to see what's happening inside, and it helps to invite them. So that's a really important element to just have there. And again, I think generally I appreciate just the services that you offer, particularly the mental health component, which is just so critical these days. So any other? Oh, Jose.
I want to say that I'm really happy of this change. It looks beautiful. Adds a lot to the community. It brings a lot of light to the place. It tells the community what you guys are doing. All this great work that Children's Services been doing in Boston and other cities. It's really beautiful. I like the lights. I hope that will what you're presenting is gonna be probably even nicer than what we've seen. But the building right now, it doesn't say much because it is all brick, but it's great idea just to bring the main entrance to where you're proposing. Really like the change.
Thank you, Jose. If I may, I know we got to move on. I just want to say this area that you're looking at on the screen now, we call it our front porch because we want to create an environment where people feel welcome, that they can come in and get access to services. We're trying to raise money so that there are no barriers to people accessing the services that we have. Right now, for example, you can't get behavioral health services unless you have a child that's been diagnosed with something. But people in our community, as you know, may be experiencing a situational trauma that they need support around. And we want to be able to offer that to the community and have a building that feels welcoming, that feels safe. John and his colleague, Anna, they work at Mass Design, which was instrumental in helping to create the King Memorial. But more importantly, their expertise is creating buildings that heal. So every color, every room design, every aspect of what we're putting into this building is child and family focused, with the hope that people feel welcome and that they feel safe, and that it really feels like a building that heals. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Sandra. I just want to add a couple, because you referenced the porch and we were seeing you, but I did want to say, I don't think I saw any like planters in front of the building, or did I miss that? I think, again, just adding nature. I mean, because the playground's a little different from, just, making sure that people connect that way as well. It'd be great to see some color as well through nature in front. So, and my question to you guys is, do you guys, outside of sort of providing services to a specific client, do you ever sort of offer just very general sort of opportunities to engage community around some of these things? I'm thinking whether it's to the local schools right around the corner, or just more broadly, because again, I think that we all need those bridges to just also step out of our comfort zones and acknowledge that we all need a little help every now and then.
Absolutely. Our behavioral health clinic operates out of 12 different schools around the city. We partner with other nonprofit organizations. We have a program called Beats, Rhymes, and Life for our young people, where it's a therapeutic hip hop program. And we have a mobile van that goes around to the schools during the summer. We go around to the parks and kids can come right up, and it's not just writing bars and rapping lyrics. They're working with our staff who have been especially trained to talk with the kids about what they're feeling and help them create music about that. And it is a therapeutic approach. So we are really working hard to, we've always worked in the community, but the new approach around this building will allow the community to come in as we continue to go out into the community. And Dave can address the issue around planters in the front. That too becomes a zoning issue, right, Dave?
Well, it's really just our property line is right on the face of the building. So it's public sidewalk immediately. So we've certainly spoken with the city about sort of the sidewalk and the conditions out there, but that's really, really part of their domain. And we can't put anything on the public sidewalk that would impede accessibility or anything else like that. So certainly something we'll continue to advocate for and talk about, but just we're somewhat limited in what we can do since it's not our property.
Got it. Well, thank you. I don't see any more hands on here. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for again, serving our communities, and we'll get back to you on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sean, can you remind